So in this hypothetical demo we call weathering the storm, things are good. We have a warehouse and the planner's done a great job planning, and there's safety stock, and the manufacturing plan is all looking good. And then the unexpected happens. We have an incident in the warehouse where we get some water leakage on an entire warehouse location, compromising all of that inventory. So it's got to come out of stock. It's got to come out of the plan. Security guard recognizes that incident has happened and needs to alert a coordinated response through the warehouse manager, the planner, the buyer, and the director of procurement. So let's take a look at the software behind this and how this might happen. We start with a page that might look like this for the security guard, a kiosk, a mobile application, a tablet, where it's very simple for him to complete his tasks. What does a security guard do? Maybe some time entry, order pizza for dinner, get really bored and go to Learn JDE and watch some JD Edwards training videos. That would be fun. But in this case, the security guard simply needs to report an incident, and there are just a few pieces of important information to collect for that incident. What's the incident description? A water leak from the air conditioning unit. What's the date of the incident and the location business unit? And this is happening in warehouse location 1A. So he's going to click that. And in doing so, just that easy, because we have automation and an orchestrator behind this, the security guard has initiated that coordinated response. Now I'm going to switch hats. And this notification has gone to the warehouse manager, where we can see the warehouse manager has found an alert. Same information that the security guard entered, the water leak from the air conditioning unit and the location of 1A. But the warehouse manager also gets a set of recommended actions. And using a new enhancement in Enterprise One, that warehouse manager can put the entire location on hold, not item by item, not lot by lot, but just in one swoop, the entire location 1A goes on hold. And because we have an orchestrator, we can even automate that to one simple click. And so now the warehouse manager has set that entire location on hold, and none of that inventory will be used for manufacturing until it's requalified and look to be okay. I can also click a button to indicate my response to that. That was a recommended task, and yes, I completed that task. Again, in one button, because we can orchestrate this. This doesn't even have to be a button. We could make this an automated step in the orchestration behind this, but for the purposes of demo, I'll mark this as completed using this button. The next recommended action that the warehouse manager might want to do is start a workflow to the other people in the process. Again, with one button click, I've now initiated the downstream workflow to engage the planner, the buyer, and the director of purchasing. And again, I can indicate that I completed that action. And finally, my third recommended action is to submit an incident report. Well, I'm not much on paperwork, so I think I'm not going to report this as a formal incident, and I'm going to reject doing that. And we'll see why these completed, and rejected steps are important a little later in the demo. I can also see a new feature that gives me a notification reminder on this to the warehouse manager. Hey, this event is due soon, and as time passes, and if I don't take action on this within the deadline date, these icons will change to remind me that this is a critical task. It would turn to a red exclamation point. But I've done my job, and I have initiated that workflow process, which means now I can switch over to our traditional work center and see that in my priority mail, I've got another incident report. I'm going to switch hats again, and now I am the planner. And my workflow message indicates to me, the planner, that there's been an incident. And again, I get a recommendation to run a net change MRP. That's my recommendation to action as a planner. And my workflow message gives me the opportunity to accept or reject that activity. Well, here's the typical workflow accept and reject form, and I'm going to accept that. And in doing so, the net change MRP is automatically run in the background. Now, after I've done that, again, I'm going to switch hats, and the workflow proceeds so that the director of purchasing and the buyer both get messages. If I've changed the net change MRP, that might mean that there's more inventory to buy, and the buyer will want to go to the planning summary. And here in the planning summary, there are all kinds of details about what inventory might need to be run and expedited, and messages to react to there. So now the buyer has a coordinated response. And as I mentioned, if those inventory items are critical, they'll need to be expedited, and the director of purchasing has also been alerted that there may be some escalated expedited purchasing to be made. So that's the coordinated response amongst the security guard, the warehouse manager, the planner, the buyer, and the director of purchasing. So now I'm going to invite Nicole to come and show what that looks like behind the scenes. Nicole?
Thanks, AJ. So the first part of this process was that night watchman kicking off a notification to let the warehouse manager know that there was a problem. And this is a notification that was executed. As you can see in the message portion, you can recognize this is the notification that the manager got, and had all of those links to put things on hold, start workflows, as well as response links for them to indicate that they've completed those tasks. And these are all based on actions defined in the notification. Here you can see the orchestration to put things on hold in that location. What was defined here with task tracking on. So there will be a task record created with a due date, and they can say whether they've completed or not completed that task. The second link that was clicked by the manager was the workflow, and we can also go ahead and look at that workflow. So the warehouse manager kicked off the workflow, and that notified the planner that they needed to determine if they should approve a run of the MRP process. They approved that MRP process run, and then the buyer and procurement director were notified about possible impact to inventory.
Now that's great. Nicole, we've been talking about the buyer and the planner as one person, but in fact, that location would have dozens, possibly hundreds of items that were all assigned to different buyers and planners. How do we find out the list of people that would be interested parties? It's probably not just one person. We didn't hard code that into the workflow.
Great question. We did not hard code it. In fact, there is an orchestration that looks at all the items in that location and finds all of the planners and buyers that need to be notified based on the items in that location. So I'm going to go ahead and run this just as an example. You can see that we get a list of a couple planners and a couple buyers, and those are the ones that would be notified with the workflow.
Very interesting. So you're saying that the system is smart enough, thanks to this orchestration, if we simply feed it a location, it can get a list of all the items in that location and then iterate over that list of items to find all of the assigned planners and buyers and interested parties.
That's correct.
Fantastic.
Yes. And so we can move back to what the warehouse manager did, which is when he started off the workflow and he kicked off the holds, he also said that those tasks that were assigned to him in that message were complete. And so we can see the records that were updated with task tracking, and he did put a location on hold, so that one is completed. He did start the workflow, but he rejected the possibility of submitting the incident report. And so all of this data is captured as far as when he received those tasks, when he completed them, and he's the demo user, so that's who completed them. So all of this can be further analyzed to understand the process and further improve it.
Great. And so those were the tasks that were delivered through the notification message. What about the workflow?
Yes, the workflow also has the ability to monitor how that process went. So with the new workflow monitor, we can get a visual indication of how the workflow executed, who was involved. So here we can see the planner approved it. He did so in 1.7 minutes, and we can see messages went out to the buyer and procurement director. And then overall, if this process is run multiple times, we can see metrics based on how the process is running as a whole.
Very interesting. So if I'm looking back on this whole scenario, life was good. We had an incident that we needed a coordinated response to, and we were able to respond to that. We have a couple of frameworks. One is the notification, where one person might be involved with some recommended actions. If a number of people need to be coordinated, that's a better pattern possibly for our workflow system. We're automating tasks. They're timely and accurate. But along the way, we're also dropping markers. We're collecting data about these things that I can imagine over time that data builds up over days and weeks and months. It gives us a pretty clear indication of how our business is running, data that we can use for later analysis. So yes, this weathering the storm, a bunch of different features in the JD Edwards digital platform and applications enhancements, putting it all together for one fairly rich enterprise automation approach to making life better.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks. Great stuff, and we're excited about it.